You know, right now, there's this huge battle raging for the very soul of the internet. It's this high-stakes fight over who's going to control our digital lives, pitting the tech giants we know today against a pretty radical new vision for a decentralized web. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what's at stake.
So let's start with a question that sounds simple, but is actually, well, it's incredibly complex. When you're online, who is really in charge? Who owns your data, your posts, your digital identity? That one question is at the very heart of this entire battle.
Okay, so first up, the web we know. Because to really get a handle on where the internet might be going, we've got to look at how we got here in the first place, from its earliest days to the platforms we are on every single day.
The web has really had two major phases so far. It all started as Web 1.0 back in the 90s. You can think of it as basically a read-only digital library. But then, around 2004, Web 2.0 took over, and that created the interactive social internet we all live on now, an era that is completely dominated by just a handful of massive tech companies.
I mean, you gotta understand this shift was absolutely fundamental. Web 1.0 was a one-way street. Information flowed from a publisher to you. Simple. But Web 2.0, well, it became a two-way conversation. All of a sudden, we were the ones making the content. Our photos, our videos, our thoughts, and we were uploading it all to these platforms built for sharing.
But here's the catch. That two-way street came with a hidden toll, because while Web 2.0 gave all of us a voice, it also created this massive concentration of power. The very platforms we use to connect and create, they became the new centers of the internet.
And this was the trade-off, the deal we all kind of made without even thinking about it. In exchange for these amazing, free platforms, a few companies got to control the entire digital public square. They make money off our data, they act as the gatekeepers, and they ultimately have the power to decide who gets a voice. In their world, your digital identity isn't really yours, it belongs to the platform.
All right, so that brings us to Section 2, the promise of Web 3. See, in response to all this centralized power, a really radical new vision for the internet has started to bubble up. It promises to tear down all those walled gardens and give control back to us, the users.
So what on earth is Web 3? Well, its champions call it the read/write/own web. And the vision is actually pretty simple. Instead of just making content on someone else's platform, you would actually own your data, own your content, and own your digital assets. And it would all be secured by technology like the blockchain. This whole vision really rests on four big ideas. First, decentralization, which just means no single company is in charge. That allows for trustlessness, meaning you don't need a middleman like a bank or a social network to interact with someone. And that leads to true user ownership of your stuff. And finally, it's permissionless, meaning anyone can join in without having to get approved or worry about being kicked off.
And you know, this isn't some brand new idea that came out of nowhere. The inventor of the World Wide Web himself, Tim Berners-Lee, he had this vision for what he called the Semantic Web, basically a smarter, more autonomous internet. And the people behind Web 3 see what they're doing as the true fulfillment of that original promise.
Okay, so the vision sounds pretty revolutionary, right? But how would any of this actually work? Let's take a look at the core tech that's supposed to make this whole decentralized future a reality.
The absolute foundation, the bedrock of Web 3, is the blockchain. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like a public digital receipt book. Every single transaction gets recorded in a block, which is then added to a long chain. And that whole chain is copied across thousands and thousands of computers. This means everyone can see it, but no single person can go back and change it. It's security through total transparency.
So here's how it works. When something happens on the blockchain, let's say you buy a piece of digital art, that transaction is broadcast to the whole network. A bunch of computers all jump in to verify it, they bundle it into a super secure block, and then they permanently link it to the chain. So the security and the verification, it comes from the community itself, not from some central company.
Now, layered on top of the blockchain, you've got these things called smart contracts. And really, they're just if-then programs that run all by themselves. Think of it like a digital vending machine. If you put in the right amount of crypto, then the contract automatically gives you the digital item. No cashier, no middleman, nobody needed. The rules are just baked right into the code.
But, and this is a huge but, as you can probably guess, not everybody is sold on this vision. And that brings us to this really fierce debate. Is Web 3 a genuine revolution, or is it just another overhyped buzzword?
Some of the biggest names in tech are, well, they're deeply skeptical. Elon Musk, for example, has pretty much dismissed Web 3. He said it seems more marketing buzzword than reality right now,
And he's questioning if there's really anything tangible behind all the hype.
And then you've got Jack Dorsey, the co-founder of Twitter, and he takes it even a step further. He argues that Web3 won't actually decentralize the internet at all. He thinks it just shifts power from the tech giants we have now to a whole new set of players, the powerful venture capital firms who are pouring billions into it.
And the skeptics' case is pretty strong. They point out that for all the talk about decentralization, a lot of the key Web3 infrastructure is already controlled by just a few companies. They argue the tech is way too slow and expensive to ever scale up, it's too complex for your average person to use, and the fact that it's unregulated makes it a potential playground for cybercrime. Some even call it vaporware, a promise that might never actually happen.
So what we're left with is this massive, massive battle of ideas with two completely opposite visions for what the internet should be. So where does that leave us? Where do we go from here?
Well, one thing is for sure. There is an absolutely enormous amount of money at stake. Venture capitalists have poured at least $27 billion into this, betting that Web3 is the future. This isn't just a philosophical debate anymore. It's one of the biggest financial gambles in the history of tech.
And this right here, this is the core tension of the whole thing. On one side, you have this powerful, compelling ideal of a decentralized web that empowers all of us. But on the other side, you have the messy reality. New financial gatekeepers, huge technical problems to solve, and all the complicated motivations that come along with billions and billions of dollars in investment.
Which brings us all the way back to our final question. Is Web3 really the path to taking back control of our digital lives? Or is it just a fancy rebranding that will replace the old bosses with new ones? Right now, that's the multi-billion-dollar question that's going to define the future of the web.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click on the bell icon to turn on notifications.